killer pizza. It was just another night for Kevin, the pizza delivery guy. He had a few deliveries to make before he could call it a night. As he got into his car, he could feel a storm brewing. It was going to be a long night. His last delivery was to a house at the edge of town. Kevin had never been there before, and the address seemed unfamiliar. He thought it must be a new customer who had ordered from them for the first time. When he arrived, Kevin noticed that the house was old and looked abandoned. The porch light was flickering, and the front yard was overgrown with weeds. The only thing that seemed out of place was the car parked in the driveway. Kevin thought about canceling the delivery, but he needed the money, so he gathered his courage, walked up to the door, and knocked. As he knocked, he could hear shuffling from inside of the house. The door creaked open, and Kevin was greeted by a tall, thin man with sunken eyes and a cold stare. The man didn't say a word and just handed him the money. Kevin gave him the pizza and waited for him to say something, but he just stared blankly at him. Kevin felt uneasy and decided to break the silence. "You know, it's not safe to be out alone in this storm. I hope you're not planning on going anywhere." The man just chuckled. "I'm not going anywhere. I have everything I need here." Kevin nodded and turned to leave, but something caught his eye. It was a glimpse of a person lying on the floor. He tried to get a better look, but the man quickly shut the door. Kevin's heart was pounding and he could feel the hair on the back of his neck standing up. He knew something was wrong and he had to do something. He decided to call the police and tell them about the strange delivery. The operator took down his details and promised to send a patrol car. As Kevin got into his car, he could hear screams coming from the house. He didn't know what to do, but he couldn't just leave the person in there. He made up his mind and decided to investigate. As he entered the house, he was hit by the stench of decay. The walls were covered in blood, and the floors were sticky with it. He could hear footsteps coming from upstairs, and he followed them. As he reached the top, he saw the man from earlier standing in front of a door. He was holding a knife and had a sinister look on his face. Kevin knew he had to act fast. He tackled the man, and they both fell to the ground. In the struggle, Kevin managed to grab the knife and stab the man. As the man lay dying on the floor, Kevin heard a faint voice coming from behind the door. It was a woman, begging for help. Kevin opened the door, and there she was. She was beaten and bloody, but she was alive. Kevin called the police, and they arrived soon after. They arrested the man who was later revealed to be a notorious serial killer. The woman was taken to the hospital, and Kevin became a hero for saving her life. But from that day on, Kevin never looked at pizza delivery the same way again. He had faced his worst fears and come out a changed man. He had never felt so alive. Pizza kidnapper. It was a dark and stormy night, and Olivia was working her usual shift as a pizza delivery driver. She'd been working for the pizza place for a few months and had always felt safe delivering pizzas, even in unfamiliar neighborhoods. But tonight was different. Olivia had a sense of unease as she drove to her next delivery. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. When she arrived at the house, she saw that it was a large mansion with a gate that looked like it hadn't been opened in years. As she walked up to the door, she could hear muffled screams coming from inside of the house. Olivia hesitated for a moment, but she knew it was her job to deliver the pizza, so she knocked on the door. The door creaked open, and a man with a disheveled appearance and a strange expression answered. He didn't say a word, but Olivia could see that he was staring at her in a way that made her feel uncomfortable. Olivia handed him the pizza and waited for him to pay, but he just stood there, staring at her. Finally, he spoke.
"You're very pretty. Would you like to come in and have a drink?"
Olivia felt uneasy, but she didn't want to be rude. She declined the offer and tried to leave, but the man grabbed her by the arm and pulled her inside. The screams she heard from earlier were coming from a locked room in the basement. Olivia tried to run, but the man was too strong. He dragged her down the stairs and threw her into the room, locking the door behind him. Olivia's heart was racing and she could feel her breath quickening. She tried to keep calm and think of a way out. She knew she had to escape before it was too late. She searched the room for anything that could help her escape, but all she found was a broken window that was too small to crawl through. She was trapped. Hours passed, and Olivia was starting to lose hope. She was hungry, thirsty, and terrified. Suddenly, she heard footsteps outside of the door. The man was back. He opened the door and smiled.
I hope you're hungry. I've ordered another pizza.
Olivia knew that this was her chance. As the man walked towards her with the pizza, she grabbed the box and threw it in his face. The man was momentarily blinded, and Olivia took advantage of the moment to push him and run towards the stairs. She ran up the stairs and out of the mansion, screaming for help. She was lucky that a car was passing by and the driver stopped to help her. The police arrived soon after, and they arrested the man who had kidnapped her. They found evidence of his other victims in the basement, and Olivia was hailed as a hero for surviving the ordeal. Olivia never delivered pizzas again. She quit her job and moved to a different city to start a new life. She still has nightmares about the night she was kidnapped and hopes that no one else ever has to go through the same experience. Pizza order. It was a rainy Friday night, and the streets were empty except for a few cars driving by. Mike, a college student, was working his part-time job as a pizza delivery driver. He'd been working for the pizza place for a few months and had always enjoyed the job, but tonight he had a strange feeling. Mike was driving to his next delivery when he noticed he was being followed by a car. At first he thought it was just a coincidence, but the car continued to follow him, taking every turn he did. Mike's heart began to race and he started to panic. He pulled up to the address. He saw that it was a rundown apartment complex. He got out of his car and walked towards the door, trying to ignore the feeling that somebody was watching him. When he knocked on the door, he heard shuffling sounds coming from inside. The door creaked open, revealing a man with a wild look in his eyes. Mike could see that the man was holding a large knife in his hand. The man didn't say a word, but he motioned for Mike to come inside. Mike was terrified, but he didn't know what else to do. He stepped inside and the man locked the door behind him. The apartment was dark and smelled of rotting food. Mike could hear someone crying in the next room. He tried to stay calm and waited for the man to tell him what he wanted. The man finally spoke.
I didn't order any pizza, but I do need something from you.
Mike's heart sank. He knew he was in trouble. The man continued.
I need you to do me a favor. I need you to take this package to a man across town. If you do it, I'll let you go.
Mike hesitated, but he knew that he had no choice. The man gave him a small package wrapped in brown paper and told him where to go. Mike got back into his car, his hands shaking. He drove to the address, a rundown motel on the outskirts of town. He knocked on the door and waited, his heart racing. The door opened, and a man with a shady look in his eyes appeared. Mike handed him the package and tried to leave, but the man grabbed him by the arm.
You know too much,
the man said.
I can't let you go.
Mike struggled, but the man was too strong. He knocked Mike unconscious and threw him into the trunk of his car. When Mike woke up, he was in a dark room. He could hear the sound of dripping water and the faint sound of someone crying. He tried to move, but he realized that he was tied to a chair. Hours passed, and Mike had given up hope of ever getting out. Suddenly, he heard the sound of footsteps coming down the stairs. The man who had kidnapped him appeared, holding a knife. Mike tried to plead with him, but the man laughed.
I told you. You know too much. I can't let you go.
Mike closed his eyes, preparing for the worst. But suddenly, he heard the sound of police sirens outside. The man panicked and ran towards the door, leaving Mike behind. The police burst into the room, freeing Mike from his restraints. They arrested the man and found evidence of his other victims. Mike quit his job as a pizza delivery driver the next day. He never forgot the night he was kidnapped and made a promise to himself to never put himself in danger again.